Okay, we're in with the game against a Dig Eagle. We got some 5-5 action, some rapid. Ooh, fairly new account, so I should be careful. Let's see how this goes. Alright, so we get a Grunfeld. So E4, take on C3. A little bit worrisome how much time he's taking. Just out of curiosity, let's look up his account. Whoops. Very quickly. Okay, it looks like he's legit. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that so much. Okay, bishop e3. Yeah, normally in the early bishop e3 lines we play queen a5. Okay, and so this is the queen exchange variation. You often get an imbalanced endgame where white has a big center against black's two outside passed pawns after we get this exchange of these two pawns. Presently, he can't capture or advance because the c3 pawn would hang with a devastating pin. So normally either bishop rook b1 or rook c1 are played. This feels slow. I'm going to play knight c6. And now I think I'm threatening to take on d2 and gang up on this pawn. Maybe I can even consider, no. Okay, so rook d8 first. I think rook c1 is indicated here, because then kind of forces my hand in the center. Can also play rook b1, looking at rook b5 ideas. Okay, rook c1 played. And now I don't want to allow d5 here. I think that's something positionally you don't want to allow on the Grunfeld. So I think here I should take first, maybe exchange queens and play rook d1. Or h3 feels a little bit slow in this kind of endgame. Would like to keep the queens on, but I think most prudent and most critical is probably the endgame. So let's do that. Let's see if we can play for the outside pass pawn in a thematic Grunfeld endgame. Has to take with the king or else d4 drops. Then rook d8. Now rook c4, I think. It's fairly standard to protect this pawn. Rook c4. Can't play bishop b6 because of d5. Rook c4, maybe knight a5. Rook a4. b6, bishop d7. Then I do give him some light squares. So rook c4, maybe e6. Oh, this doesn't feel right to me because I can just play e6 here and gang up on this pawn. He's also opening up my bishop. Let's go ahead and play e6 fairly quickly. Try to think on his time. So bishop c4. Do I take here or do I play f5 maybe? Maybe f5 is interesting. But then I guess he can just move his king and I have to move my knight. So what about f5? He moves his king, knight a5, takes, 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 rook c7. I can play rook c8 or rook d7 there if I need to. What about takes, takes, knight b4? How's he defending this pawn? Takes, takes, knight b4. I don't see how he defends that pawn actually. Maybe I need to be concerned about him getting in on the 7th is the only thing. Let's say takes, takes, knight b4. Let's say rook hd1. Knight takes d5, takes, takes, king moves. I'm in time just to trade rooks, play rook, bishop e6 there. Yeah, I like it. And takes, if bishop takes, then just bishop e6, or even f5. F5 looks, oh no, I can't play that because of the pin, but, so pawn takes, I have just multiple ways of ganging up on this pawn. Maybe more precise is bishop here. Just completing my development. I think that makes sense. I think that makes more sense. I always have knight a5 in reserve if I want it. So bishop here, say like knight g5, I can just take, that's not a problem. Bishop e6, rook d1, takes. This is all fine. Pushing doesn't do anything for him. Let's play it. I like this better than knight b4 because I'm just completing my development while simultaneously accomplishing the same thing of attacking d5. So now I'm going to be up a pawn, one of which is my outside pass pawn. So it should be close to winning. Maybe not winning yet, but sizable advantage. That's good. Okay. And I'm doing a pretty good job of keeping a pace on the clock as well, making practical decisions. Okay. So king moves, I'll take. Rook d1, nope. So now if he plays rook d1, I think I'm happy just to exchange pieces off along the d file. I think. At least one rook trade should be completely fine. Making sure a7 doesn't hang in any of these lines. Don't think it does. So yep, let's do it. Just double on the d file and initiate some trades. So takes. I wonder if he offers the exchange again if that minor piece endgame is winning. It's got to be very good with the outside passer. But that would be very speculative of him to offer another exchange of rooks. So I think he correctly keeps them on. So now b6 seems right. Blocking out this bishop and also blocking the b file. Can also, well, if I do this, then a7 hangs. So I think this is right here. If he just switches back to the c file, does destabilize my knight. So b6, rook c1, knight a5, check on c8. It's annoying, given. I'll grant him that. Okay, what about check, takes? That's nothing. Okay, some precision required here. Here, rook c1. I don't really want to have to play knight e7 there. That's way too passive. I'm going to play rook d6, bishop f4, check. Let's do this because I think it feels right. And now after rook c1, what am I doing? Maybe I do play rook d6 there. Bishop here, check. Knight e7, he can play stuff like this, although then f6. Here he can also play this, so I think I want to keep the file closed. What about check, takes? Yeah, he just comes in with a rook, so let's play this, making sure I'm not missing anything. Bishop f4, I'm in time to play the check. Yeah, bishop f4 I can check, and then my knight has, well, maybe it doesn't. Knight d4, he still has his check. So I need to evacuate my back rank and or control some of these squares. So how do I manage that? First of all, maybe I just control this square so he can't bother my rook. I think that looks good, so I'm going to do it. Just making sure my rook is tied to my knight here. I think that's reasonable. My knight controls this square from the knight. So this, the f3 knight doesn't really have any productive locations presently. That's good. So just like keeping a damper on his counterplay. And then I can slowly unwind and start pushing these pawns once I activate my king and my bishop. And I guess these are relatively stable pieces at the moment. I just know I need to be very careful about how I arrange my queenside play, how I push these pawns. I need to do it very methodically and very controlled. Now, I think I want to keep some major piece or some minor pieces on because the rook in game would probably be drawn. Now, maybe I just clear some space for my king. I really don't like. Hmm, I really don't like the prospect of his rook coming in. So what is this about? I'm not sure. Maybe I should be starting with f5, maybe not. But in the interest of playing practically, I'm playing bishop f6, just nice and slow in the endgame, creating a little hole for my king, little cubby, where it can sit comfortably on g7. Then I no longer have to worry about my king being pushed away along the back rank. And then slowly push my pawns. So how am I doing this here? Maybe I should have been playing like knight b4 or something at some point. Coming into d3. So what does he want? He wants knight d3. This is clear. Or just rerouting the knight somewhere. But from d3, what does it actually do? I'm not sure. Knight here, a3. What about this? Knight here, a3, rook here, rook here. That doesn't do much. Let's continue with my plan. Okay, is he going here? I'm not sure that's such an issue. Here, f4. What about here, f4, rook here, but then this hangs. So yeah, he's bringing his knight to f4. I don't really want to play this, giving him this square. I need to keep up the pace. About here, rook comes in. Then I can push these pawns, so then that's not an issue. And from here, the knight doesn't do much. Let's do it. So rook here, here, knight here. Rook c6 was my plan. I wonder, oh no, I was thinking rook here. I can maybe do this anyway. It takes in, this would be mate, but the knight controls this square. So yeah, rook c7, a5. It's nice that my b6 pawn is currently defended by my rook. So rook b7 isn't all that bothersome yet. Although after this, there's not really any good squares along the sixth. So I think he wants this, but then I can force the rooks off because rook c6, if rook b7, this is now mate if he does play knight f4. So, and if I can get the minor piece in game, that feels very close to winning. The rook in game not so much. If we were to trade off all the minor pieces, but the minor piece in game with rooks off, I think is very promising. Now, so yeah, I do want to try to get the rooks off. So rook c6, and then coming after the a pawn, and also threading some back rank stuff. Yes, the knight is actually surprisingly powerful on d4, just controlling the king's only left. So otherwise, if not knight f4, what does he want? Okay, this is my idea. He doesn't have any discoveries, or not discoveries, but he doesn't have any checks because this square is sufficiently covered. Okay, so we get the minor piece in game, which I thought was very promising. So knight here, I have bishop d5, or bishop d4 rather. I can also just push these pawns, and honestly, that's very close to winning. They can speculate on the minor piece exchange, just making sure if I push, let's do it. Just making sure none of these pawns hang. So if he brings his king in, maybe knight here and here. I'm kind of threatening, like king e2, knight here, 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 here. I can take here. If ever bishop here, I can push and just keep my pawns on light squares where they can no longer be attacked. And with the constellation of pawns like here and here, and the knight here is just unassailable. Okay, so this was my idea, coming here. Oh, it does have bishop here. I didn't see that initially. Is that a problem? I can just chase it and then start with this. Honestly, I can consider just taking that in some situations. Maybe not yet. So that's slightly sloppy, but that's okay. Okay, let's go here. He'll come in with the king, and I can, yeah, I can and I should just evacuate the knight. I'm not sure if I want to play a4 yet or not. He does get a blockade. Okay, where's my knight going? I'm not sure. Let's put it on c6. I think it's, for the moment, it's knight's on c6, controlling this, and if I push a4, it controls b4. So let's bring my king in on a light square. Maybe I could have like tried trapping the bishop somehow. Not sure. And I wonder whether I should be pushing. Perhaps not. Yeah, I really don't know. I think if I move the knight, he can maybe come and bother this pawn. Maybe I should just move the king in. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Keep him distracted over here. Don't push a4 yet. Because he can't approach these pawns, and he can't attack my knight, which is on a light square. So really, like, what's he doing? If here, I think he pushes, and I go here, takes, here, takes, here, here. And I can slowly round up that pawn. Let's do it. Push here. Okay, that's fine. I'll just manage to get my king into his position. So here, I think that's winning. Let's do it. I'll takes, and then this pawn, he has no way of defending that. I'm just going to stretch him on both sides of the board. I think it's going to be too much for him to defend. I'm going to have pass pawn over here and a pass pawn over here. And that should be too much. Okay, let's get this guy motoring. It's going to cost him a full, this pawn is going to cost him his full bishop. Just making sure here, king here. I can just push there, honestly. Takes, king takes, push. And that's winning. So let's do it. So king here, here, takes, king takes, push, takes is win. Here, takes, or here, takes, king takes, push, pawn push, here, king comes in. That's got to be a win. Pretty simple win. Yeah. His pawn is not, at that point, his pawn is not going to be advanced enough to bother the queen. Oh, okay. Okay, I thought it was being cheeky with the draw offer. So good game to Addy Eagle, and let's take a look. Yeah, so initial impressions are he played just a kind of slow move in the opening, which basically allowed me to get a dynamically imbalanced but probably equal endgame. So I was able to equalize right off the bat. This h3 move felt a little bit just besides the point to me. It wasn't very incisive. And then he ran afoul of pins and problems on the d file. His center came under too much fire, as is typical in the Grunfeld, and then he dropped the pawn, and I was slowly able just to kind of outmaneuver him and the pawn up in game. And then coalesce, kind of reconfigure my setup, and then slowly push the pawns, and then I was able to stretch him out too much and infiltrate with the king. So I thought that was pretty nicely played. I'm pretty happy about that. Let's see. Yeah, I suspect it's going to be a pretty clean game. So here, yeah, so we get a mainline Grunfeld, exchange variation, and bishop e3 is normally a signal to play for the queen a5 lines, just putting his center under pressure, activating the queen, pinning this pawn, so queen d2, and now he's not yet threatening to push with d5, so castles, yeah, and now here h3, it just feels really slow to me. He was worried about bishop g4, I guess, but in this concrete position, it's just too slow. Rook b1 or rook c1 are the main moves. Rook b1 with the idea of just harassing the queen and maybe provoking something of a weakening over here. I kind of like the b6 move. And rook c1 with the idea of maybe playing d5 if I'm not careful in addressing the center. because now you are defending c3. I can no longer take on c3. So here he takes, and that, yeah. So the difference is here he can A, recapture with one of the minor pieces, but B, even king takes. He's saved on this move, and he can play something more productive the next move, like just activating his pieces. Okay, so h3. Now I can just develop very quickly. Pressure is center. Rook c8. Now that's a signal to initiate the exchanges in the center. Takes, king takes. And I guess I can undermine immediately with f5. I'm just always a little bit reluctant to weaken these light squares, especially with the knight coming to g5 in conjunction with the bishop on c4. But yeah, in a lot of cases you can deal with that, and it's worth it just to pressure a center. So rook d8 seems normal, and then yeah, so bishop c4 is much more active, like developing his last minor piece. Although it does hang this, so d5, but then I can just like he's pinned up along the d file. So I thought rook c4. Ah, a rook c4 I can just take. I'm just take and play e5. I wasn't even looking at that at the time. I wonder if I would have seen that in the game had he played rook c4. Takes, and e5. Yeah, okay, so it looks like we're pretty much regardless, I'm just winning a pawn. Okay. But yeah, d5 I can just hack away. Here probably I wonder if either f6 or rook d7. Let's say bishop g5, let's say f6. And then the bishop moves and I take. Okay, that's fine. But here takes. And initially I was thinking knight b4. But then, yeah, knight b4 is just, even if I were to win that pawn from knight b4, I think I'm just a little bit gummied up. I need to prioritize development, so it's convenient that I can play bishop b6 while still attacking his weak pawn. b5, wow. b5 you can't take because I take on c4, forking. I take on d5 rather, forking his bishop and his king. And if he has to move back to b3, knight a5, okay. And something like, say, rook here, takes, king moves, and oh wow, a5 and just get the pawns motoring. That's somewhat surprising. Because I always have this bishop b7 resource. Just bishop b7, he can't maintain his rook on the back rank. And these pawns, with the two bishops, that should be more than sufficient winning conditions. Huh, I like that, b5. It's clever. Okay, but I thought this was very simple and very good. Just up the extra pawn. And then let's see how I consolidated. b6. I can just play rook d7. This feels better to me. This feels better to me. Not weakening my queen side, not weakening critically the knight on c6, and allowing him some counterplay along the c file. Rook d7 feels much more solid to me. Yeah, I like that. Rook d7, and then I can slowly bring my king in, and later on push these pawns. So b6 here. I thought concretely this worked out because I have the check and then I have time. h6, making sure he can't kick my rook from defending the knight. Yeah, bishop f6, just bring the king up. So maybe instead of stepping up, maybe I should be coming over into the center or coming over to d7 or something to assist these pawns. But yeah, given the fact that I in minute just want to secure my king side and then play with my extra passer over here. Rook comes in, but that at that point it wasn't an issue anymore. I was happy to get to initiate these exchanges. Kind of surprised that the engine doesn't think this is better. Negative 0.5. Maybe white can hold if he plays precisely, but I don't know. In a practical game, I think it's going to be tremendously difficult. And that's a game-losing blunder. I mean, it just simplifies way too easily for me with these fast pawns. Yeah, he should just be trying to complicate. But here, so what's the issue? First of all, I can just play this, right? Oh, he's hitting this. That's the problem. Shoot. Okay, so that's why, like concretely, I'm just dropping one of these pawns. That's the problem. Once I play this, but then he can establish this bind. Wow. Shoot. Okay, so after the thing is he provokes a weakening, and after b5, he plays this, forking the pawn and the e8 square. Now I can save my pawn because he just wins this. I see. Okay. So that's a bit sloppy on my part, just tactically. Yeah, so I should just be moving the bishop. Hmm. Still, I would think this is much better for black, even just practically. So many chances to pose problems. But he takes and makes it pretty simple on me. Now I can go after this pawn. But he gets his bishop in, but maybe he should just be sitting tight here instead of advancing his pawns, because this just allows my king in. Yeah, f5 doesn't do anything, and my king gets in, and now it's all over. Okay. All right, well, pretty happy with that Grunfeld endgame. And again, a good game to my opponent.